What up, everybody? DJ Anubis here on the Military Radio Podcast doing another movie review. And what would the month October be without talking about horror? And this time around, I went and checked out the brand new Hellraiser film on Hulu 2022. It is directed by David Bruckner, who also did 2017's The Ritual and 2020's The Night House. It was co-produced by Clive Barker himself, so he was involved. And it stars Odessa Azayan, Jamie Clayton, Brandon Flynn, and Goran Visnjic. Sorry if I butchered his last name. Much apologies for that. There are a few other actors in this. I can't remember the one guy who plays the boyfriend of another, the brother of the main character, but those are the main ones that we were talking about there. The plot follows a former addict and Riley, played by Ozayan, who ends up stealing the infamous puzzle box with her boyfriend Colin, who was the brainchild behind the theft. She ends up playing with the puzzle and starts unlocking it, which of course leads to doors and gateways to hell opening up. The difference with this particular box, though, if you're familiar with the Hellraiser series movies, the puzzle box that's infamous, it actually acts a little different in this film. That when someone is playing it and unlocking it, it will occasionally kick out a blade or a needle or some sort of knife, depending on the size of the box when it's done configuring around. It injects or impales whoever it's with. So when it does, there seems to be like this drug-like effect that the person who is cut with it has and experiences. Not really sure what the overall purpose of that is. But normally when that happens, that means the Cenobites are coming. They are coming to get you at that point, and they often do. We find out mainly that the whole plot starts being based around a billionaire who actually had the box originally. And when Colin ends up stealing it with his girlfriend Riley, who's the main character, we kind of find out later that the billionaire was trying to unlock the box in order to call a meeting with the Cenobites. But of course, in order to get to that meeting, you have to sacrifice people in the process. So he was already starting to sucker people in to get cut and then be taken by the Cenobites. And you have to have a certain amount of number of sacrifices, I guess, to get to that meeting that when you finally get that meeting, you get to have your wish or the ultimate gift that they will give upon you. So that is the purpose. And so unfortunately for Riley, her brother gets mixed up in this stuff and disappears. And so now she's having to try to figure everything out with the box and what's going on and why it's going on. The one thing people said to me before watching it was that the movie started out kind of slowly and picked up, and they were right. It is a bit of a slow burn early on, but I didn't really mind that because with horror, sometimes it gets a little bit too fast, and so you don't have any development of the characters. And I kind of felt like at least they were trying to develop the characters here so you can kind of understand where they're coming from and why. Aesthetically, the movie was pretty pleasing. I liked the way it looked. The locations were cool. Even they have what they call is the puzzle house, which is owned by the billionaire. That's it's sort of reminiscent. If you ever saw the remake of 13 Ghosts, it's kind of like that. It doesn't quite have. It's not quite as elaborate as that, but it has a similar principle in how it's designed. It has certain things that it does that was created by the billionaire, of course, which you'll find out if you watch it. Now, as far as Clayton as Pinhead, Jamie Clayton, obviously the talk was because Jamie Clayton is sorry, my eye's been bothering me, but Jamie Clayton is a transgender actress who is portraying Pinhead this time around, and so I kind of got into a little bit of I won't say trouble per se, but there was a particular person who took offense when I was pointing out that when Hulu was advertising this movie, they came out and they said here's going to be Hellraiser portrayed by trans actress Jamie Clayton. And I kind of felt like that was a disservice to Clayton because it's like, we often hear that trans people are often trying to be labeled as female or male or whatever. That's what they want to be called. Uh, so I kind of felt like in this way, when they were doing that, they were kind of like making it all about her sexuality and her gender rather than like actually just call her actress. Like I thought it would have been better just say call her actress Jamie Clayton. That's probably what she wants. I don't think she really wants to be labeled as trans, like even though she is, but that the whole purpose is like she's transitioning to what she is now. So I took a little bit of heat from people when I was trying to argue on their behalf. I don't think they really understood where I was coming from, but that was unfortunate. But as far as the acting, I thought Clayton did an adequate job as Pinhead, and it was it was fine. Uh, is it better than Doug Bradley's? No. And I've said it before, people, that it was really kind of uphill battle for Clayton anyway, because to me, there are certain actors and actresses that own roles. So when it comes to horror, what I'm talking about is like Robert Englund as Freddy, Tony Todd as Candyman, and of course Doug Bradley as Pinhead. These are people that I felt made those roles iconic for a reason because they knew how they portrayed them, and it's just how it was like growing up. Uh, if you're a young person and you went and saw Nightmare on Elm Street in 2010, I think, is that the year that that remake came out? Uh, you may say to yourself that, someone else portraying Freddy is better than what Robert Englund did. But for many people, it's the other way around. Like, it's like trying to do Evil Dead 2 with someone else other than Bruce Campbell being Ash. Like it just wouldn't happen because, at least with me, because that person, that actor makes that character who it is. And it's oftentimes very difficult to come in and try to do a remake of something that's like so iconic and legendary. So it's not Clayton's fault. I mean, obviously it's a great opportunity to do a role in a film that is so revered by many horror fans. So uh, I thought she did an adequate job with it. And some people said, based on the books, there's kind of like a unisex with Pinhead, so there's really no actual sex. But uh, unfortunately, when I'm only the person that watches the movies mainly, so for me, Doug Bradley is Pinhead. So it was really going to be an uphill battle for Clay to try to convince me that she was better than him. But for this movie, she was fine. I didn't have any problems with that. Um, let's see. We did see some other familiar Cenobites in this, so I can't remember the names of the other ones, but you'll remember them from the earlier films. One of them though was Chatter, but the strange thing about Chatter was, and it actually kind of was like my feeling with all the looks of the Cenobites. Like I know they went kind of in their own way, kind of crazy in how they wanted them to look, but I didn't see them as terrifying or even as convincing as the Cenobites from the earlier films. I don't know why that is. I don't know. I don't know if it was just the type of makeup or the type of look they were going for, but they weren't as creepy or scary to me as what we had seen previously. It just, I don't know. It was really weird to me that I wasn't at all terrified by these Cenobites at all. Like they just didn't do. There were some interesting looks. There was a couple of new ones in there. The one that kind of had like the blades on his arms, like that was kind of cool. Like he almost looked like a sort of a mixture of Predator and a creature from Split Second. It's something that came up recently talking about those films, but it was really different from the other ones. And he was actually in one that was actually darker in terms of color. So that was kind of an interesting. We didn't see much of him, but that was like probably the most interesting Cenobite that I had seen in this film. Soundtrack wise, it was actually very good. They took a lot of the, some of the older themes that you would hear in Hellraiser, you recognize those, and then add some new ambient vibes that were more modern. That really fit the movie nicely in terms like that's one thing that's important to me is when you have scenes, the music has to kind of match what's going on. Like sometimes you'll watch a horror movie and the music doesn't really match what's happening, like in terms of like the overall feel or aesthetic of what we're looking at. So I was pretty happy with the soundtrack. Uh, Before I give my score, I will say I went to look on Rotten Tomatoes just to see what the gauging thing is right now. It's still early. Right now, the critics are at 69% and the audience is at 64. So when I give my score, people might say, "Well, I mean, that's too low." Well, but really, it's higher than the audience is giving it right now. So I give it a 7 out of 10. It's not super great. It's a nice attempt. I will say this: um, this Hellraiser is better than Judgment, Bloodline, Debtor, and Revelations. I will give you that. I'm gonna give my list of my rankings here in a minute, but as far as those four, like other sequels, this Hellraiser is better than those. I will say that. My rankings from 1 to 7 at this point, because Judgment and Bloodline, Debtor, and Revelations, I could care less. I don't want to rank them because I just don't really like those films, and so I'm just gonna do the top 7 for me. We'll start with number 1, and I'm probably one of the few people who rank this one higher than the original, and that's Hellraiser 2. A lot of it has to do with when I saw this in the theaters, and it's probably the only film that does this that I'm aware of that I can remember, where the Cenobites have like a fight with other Cenobites. Like it's fucking amazing. I love that. The whole concept behind it. It's not like the original Cenobites were trying to be heroes. It was like, hey, who the fuck are you? Why am I turf? And we're gonna fuck you up. Now, shit don't go to plan, but you gotta watch the film to find out. Um, so Hellraiser 2 is my number 1. Number 2, obviously, is the first Hellraiser. Brilliant movie. I can change those and still not be unhappy about it. Just like I said, Hellraiser 2 has like a bit of an edge with that battle. Most people hate Hellraiser 3. At number 3, that's where it comes in. But I'm a big Paula Marshall fan. So for those of you who've seen Warlock 2 with Julian Sands or Full Eclipse with Mari Van Peebles, I really like her as an actress. I don't think she did much after the 90s. I think she did some TV work and stuff. But she was nice to look at and pretty good actress from what I could tell. And of course, the lead Terry Farrell in Hellraiser 3 was very good, and eye candy as well. But plot wise, you could take it or leave it. But I still got some pretty good entertainment. I think I went and saw that in the theater too. Now, 4 through 6 are 3 Hellraiser sequels that I'm not going to sit there and bang the drum that they're like the greatest things ever. But I will say that they bring something unique to the series that none of the other films really do, and they kind of do it well. And there's some reasons for this. So at number 4, I have Hellraiser's Hellworld, and at the time, I didn't even recognize or understand who Catherine Winnick was. So for those of you who don't know who I'm talking about, she's the woman that plays Lagatha in the Viking series, which is kind of where she really gained a lot of momentum as an actress. And but so this movie I think was back in probably 2002 or somewhere in that range. So she was a bit younger then. But the whole synopsis was you have gamers who participate in an online role playing game are invited to a rave whose host plans to show them all the truth behind the Cenobite mythos. So these next 3 films I'm going to talk about don't really have the Cenobites per se. They do either appear in some form or they're at least talked about, but they're not like all of a sudden, they're not the villains per se. We have different things going on. So the stories are centered around something different. And the Hellworld's like that because it ends up unraveling different than you think it would. So I thought it was really cool, at least unique in terms of stories. Number 5, Hellraiser Hellseeker. This is basically a third film for Ashley Lawrence, who appears in the first two films. Uh, Synopsis is a woman who's grown up and married. Her memory of the events that took place in her parents' home and the mental institution have dimmed, but she is still traumatized. One fateful day, the married couple gets into a fatal car crash, killing her. Her husband then finds himself in a strange world full of sexy women, greed, murder, and making him believe he may be in hell. Again, this film has a unique story that it's telling, but then also there is a bit of a twist. So you have to watch it to get what I'm talking about. Number 6, Hellraiser Inferno, starring Craig Schaefer. And if you want to know, he's the guy from Nightbreed. So Los Angeles cop Joseph finds himself plunged into hell, forcing him to work with the demon known as Pinhead to gain possession of his puzzle box and escape from an eternity of suffering. Again, this is it's not so much Pinhead and company trying to kill people. It's Pinhead playing a factor in a story that's just unique and different. It's not favorites for mine. Just like I will watch the first two anytime, anywhere because I really like those two, and that's what I like about Hellraiser. So number 7, Hellraiser 2022 is where that comes in because we're getting back to where the Cenobites are actually the villains and the ones doing the dirty deeds. But as far as strength, again, Hellraiser 2022 is kind of like, from what I remember hearing, and I don't know why my nose is itching, but I remember hearing Hellraiser 2022 being like in a different part of the universe and the Hellraiser lore. So it's not a remake or a reboot. Well, it is a reboot, but just it's not a remake in terms of the first film. Apparently, it's like a whole different universe, and Pinhead can be whatever Pinhead wants to be. So that's probably one good reason why he got an actress like Jamie Clayton playing that part, because it's taking you in a different area. But it does come in at number 7, and then, as I said, the other 4 films I just don't give a rat's ass about. I just won't even bother ranking them because I just don't like them that much. I think I remember Bloodline was one. I think it took place in space or something. I can't remember exactly, but it was around the same time that Jason X came out, I think. So for whatever reason, everything started going to space at that point. But they just aren't memorable enough to worry about, so I didn't bother ranking those. So those are my top 7, with Hellraiser, the new one, coming in number 7. So this week, for those of those who follow me on here, and if you follow the Fat Samurai Guy, well, this Thursday for Versus, we were doing 1960s Black Sunday by Mario Bava versus Dario Argento's Suspiria from 1977. So I'm really excited about this. I'm not going to give anything away, but for most people that know me, know probably where I'm going to go with this one. But I'm excited to do it. I'm excited to see what the rest of the panel is going to have. I believe we're going to have a lot of the same people from last week, so that's going to be a lot of fun. Also, if you checked out the Grave Huffer interview I did with Richie Randall, that's going to be replayed on the podcast coming up this week, audio version. So if you missed it on the video, it'll be at least be on the audio version for you. And then coming soon, I have collaborations with Lone Wolf Ronin. We're going to talk about the martial arts film 7 Grandmasters. The way that I wanted to kind of do this with him, hopefully going forward, is we'll talk about this movie together, and then he's going to choose a flick for the month after that we'll get together. And we won't get together, but we'll watch, and then we'll discuss whatever film that he wants to, review, which will be cool because he's really the master in the world of martial arts lore and movies and stuff. Like, I think I have knowledge of stuff like that, but he blows my ass away. I also have a collaboration with Big Bad Wolf. He's a guy that follows Rob from ETN. He's one of the moderators over there on his channel. He's a really cool guy. He's really into werewolves like I am. He actually writes werewolf stories. He sent me one that I read that was really, really good. But we're gonna get together and talk about werewolves, movies, books, lore, and stuff like that. Just I guess like as a fan of werewolves myself, like it's about time I kind of do something on that, like specifically, which I want to do. So I would like nothing more to get together with him and do that. I know he's kind of busy, but we're gonna try to work that in as well. So yeah, thank you all for checking out this review. Definitely check out Hellraiser. It's on Hulu right now, and yeah, leave some comments of where you feel on it and how you feel about it. If you disagree with me, that's fine. If you agree with me, that's cool too. If you're in between, doesn't matter. All right, all. Take care. Keep it metal.